Welcome back, everyone, to our In the Inbox series, answering question 133 for you. This is a series where we answer the questions that you have asked about the real estate industry here in Belize. So, jumping right in, we're answering this week's question from Derek. And he said, why are there so many abandoned structures in Belize? Why are there so many abandoned structures in Belize? And that is a fantastic question, but it begs another question, which is, are they actually abandoned or are they just unfinished? So let's dig a little bit deeper into that. In Belize, when locals are building homes, they tend to build as they get the money for it. And the big reason for that is because construction financing, construction loans in this country are expensive for locals. For example, it's 10 to 12% interest. Terms are a little bit shorter than we may be used to at 10 to 20 years, and it typically requires about 50% down. So what happens is many people decide to pay with cash and they build over time. So let's say they've been saving enough money to get the cinder blocks. So they'll buy the cinder blocks and store those. And then they're getting enough money for the electrical. Then they'll buy everything they need for the electrical and then save that. But this is just a complete shift of mindset. I know for many North Americans, typically you're able to get the construction loan fairly easily and you're building everything to be completed at once. Here, they'll typically just build what they need and build over time. So it's not uncommon to see one-story structures or multiple-story structures with rebar sticking out of the top, and that is anticipation of them perhaps adding another floor over time. I think this is a very smart way to build so they're not overextending or people are not overextending themselves. They're building just what they need with the funds that they have. So you will tend to see that a lot. In addition to that, not many people are building or painting rather their entire building all at once. Maybe they'll have enough funds to paint one side or two sides or three sides, or they're going to be painting one side and then plastering another side. So here, especially within the local culture, homes are purchased or built up over time and then passed down to the kids and the grandkids thereafter. So it tends to be a legacy home, homes that stay within the family for generations. So it's just again a shift of mindset when you see structures that may not be completed. Now, with that being said, this is not always the case. There are a handful of buildings, not just on Ambergris Caye, but throughout the country, that foreigners start. And because they underestimate the construction costs here, they tend to get started, run out of money, and then stop. And because it's very difficult for a foreigner to get a construction loan here in Belize, what tends to happen is they just stop the construction entirely. Maybe they'll sell the building as is. But we do tend to see, because property taxes here are minimal, that many people don't necessarily lose the property, of course, unless they're financing, but they'll just hold on to it. And that's his next point here. With property tax being low, they're not left, the structures aren't necessarily completely abandoned, whereas there's no owner or it goes into foreclosure, but they just may be untouched or unfinished. However, unfinished does not mean cheap. So I know on one of my very, very first tours that I had when I started the real estate company, I had a lady who was looking for a beachfront property for under 200,000. It was a bit of an anomaly, but we decided to give it a go. And as we're driving, she sees half-built structures and she's like, I really like that one. I really like that one. I really like that one. Can you get me the costs? And as I was finding out about the costs, I found that it really isn't inexpensive, especially if the bones are strong and it's a top location. It is a highly desirable location. Maybe there's not a lot of inventory with land in that area. You're going to see the prices are fairly high. So I did get a couple of examples for you of current on the market properties that you can see there. Not necessarily anything happening with them, but this one on the left-hand side, it's in the San Pablo area. This is a local neighborhood, upper middle class to upper class within San Pedro here. San Pablo neighborhood, just south of the heart of downtown, very desirable area where you have a lot of families, a lot of expats living in this area. The schools are down there too. But just for this property that we see here on the left-hand side, this is going for $550 US. Now, I don't know anything about these structures here. I'm going to assume the bones are good, but just looking at it, I can't really tell that. And then on the right-hand side, this is another commercial lot. It's 400,000. Let's say commercial lot. Here in Belize, we don't really have that proper zoning. Completely different conversation that I'll put a link in the description below for zoning in Belize and in San Pedro, but they're calling this one a commercial property. And this one's going for 400,000 in Seagull Drive. This is within the San Pedro town core here. Again, I don't know much about the structure, but typically if something is built with concrete and cement, if it's all enclosed, if there's no exposed rebar, it can be a very, very durable building. and you're just able to plaster it and then finish it to get it to what you want it to be. But again, I don't know that about these. These are just some examples of prices. I know people are looking at this like, oh, wow, I really thought it's going to be less than that. But you may be thinking that just from looking at the structure and not necessarily including the land value below. Now, this is one going for 650 US. You can see the building right over here, but it's a good sized property. This is located about 9 miles up north. It's on 2 acres of property. So we're adding the land value to that, but you can see somewhat in the pictures below the structure is not finished. And so there is the painting that's going to need to be done, the dividers inside. It's a strong building, strong structure. The cost to rebuild that is probably pretty pricey because it is a concrete solid build pilings down to the bedrock. However, you're not going to get a finished product for 650, but you are going to get a lot of land and a solid property there. Now, I do have one example on the next slide here. That's a great example of an affordable option. So this is a unfinished 1-bedroom condo at the popular Sapphire Beach, located about 9.5 miles north. And this one is going for $75,000. It's probably going to cost about another $70,000 to $75,000 to get it completed, but it's a great option for somebody who maybe wants the bones, wants the structure, wants to be within a condo development, and wants to finish it off how they want to. I'm more than happy to send you additional information about this property if you'd like to see some of the interior here, but it's located at Sapphire Beach, a beachfront resort with a restaurant on site, multiple pools, and a strong community of expats who live there full time, and then also those who put their property in the rental program. So if you're somebody who's looking for maybe a fixer-upper, a little bit of TLC, or maybe you just want to be a little bit more hands-on with the construction, but don't necessarily want to start from ground up, this is one that I would recommend. But if any of these are of interest, I can, of course, send you those details, or maybe I've spurred some interest in you wanting to find properties that that need some TLC, need some fixing up. Reach out to our team. We're more than happy to go through that with you. I have an incredible team here beside me at Luna Realty Belize, whose goal is to help you find the right property for you. So reach out to us, info@lunarealtybelize.com. And next time you're in Belize and you see a property that may not be completed, it may not necessarily abandoned, but it may indeed just be a work in progress. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you here in paradise, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.